Hebrew Israelite is a person that comes from the descent of Abraham, who is the first Hebrew that's in the Torah. Abraham, he come from Urs Kasdim, and God told him to leave his land and culture, leave his family members and his natives, and he became the first Hebrew that crossed over. That's what Hebrew means. Hebrew Ivri, we call it Ivri, Avad, which is to cross over. So he became the first Hebrew of the Hebrew. Okay, in order to be an Israelite, you have to come from the seed of Jacob. Jacob was the grandson of Abraham. His middle son was Isaac. So his father was Jacob's father was Isaac. Isaac begot Jacob, and he became Israel because he wrestled with an angel, because he had that power to wrestle with an angel. So from that point on, God told him, your name won't be Jacob anymore, but your name will become Israel, because that's one who strives with God, one who has power with God. That's what Israel means. Okay, so we identify ourselves from the beginning of the first crossover, which was Abraham. He was Hebrew, and then from his son Jacob, which became Israel. So we're from the seed of Israel, which become an Israelite because he had 12 sons. The 12 sons became Israelites. So now we identify ourselves as Hebrew Israelites according to the Torah, which is the Bible, 5 books of Moses, and it tells you about our descendants and where we come from. We come from West Africa. Okay, so Abraham was the first Hebrew, and his son Jacob became Israel. So that's how we identify ourselves as the Hebrew Israelites. So, well, we want to make sure that we practice what's in the Torah. Okay, that's our faith. Faith is our Torah. This is what we believe in. We believe in the commandments of the Most High God, His statutes, His ordinances, okay, because it's all in there, in the Torah. And we read every parasha, there's 52 parashas, okay, but it starts off in the book of Exodus. Exodus gives you the Torah itself. Well, we went to Mount Sinai, and we administered to the Most, we praised the Most High God and accepted Him as our God and His laws. So God gave us these laws when Moses took us out of bondage from Egypt. Okay? And our faith right now is the belief in one true living God. We say Shema, Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You see, and this is what we believe. We believe our God is the one and true living God, that there's no other God in between Him, before Him, or after Him. He's the same God that we acknowledge from the beginning of time, which we call the Creator. We say, Bereshit bara Elohim hashamayim va'aretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, so that's the God that we address. That's the God that we acknowledge. That's the God that we praise, one that created the heavens and the earth. And this is our faith. We believe in Him and His Torah, His ordinances, His statutes. The statutes are the way the statutes are what we relate to. We talking about having respect for one another, having consideration, obligation, protection, that sort of thing. These are statutes that God handed us down to do, to live and dwell among each other, to have respect for one another. Right. So the statutes is very important. Even though the law is there, the Lord tells you not to break the laws of the Most High God. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. The 10 Commandments. Yeah. But there's more than 10. There's over 613 commandments. They say 613, but there's plenty more, See, so you got positive laws, you got negative laws. He said, thou shalt not do this. And he tells you, this is what you must do. This is the law. Okay, that's a positive when he tells you what to do, and a negative telling you what not to do. Okay. Well, Israelite is multicultural. I mean, multicolored. We like a garden, actually. We got different colors, and you got the Puerto Ricans, you got the Mexicans, you got the Cubans, you got Dominicans. They all Hebrews. We believe in the kosher law. In Leviticus. Leviticus, it tells you what to eat and what not to eat. Okay, God forbid us to eat any swine flesh, it tells you to eat only animals that chew the cud and have cloven hooves. Okay? Okay, you have a lot of animals that chew the cud, like the rabbit, but don't have cloven hooves.
Yeah.
Right? You have the pig, the swine. He has cloven hooves, but he don't chew the cud. So God was specific about the meats that we eat. He said the cloven hooves and chew the cud. Those are the animals that you're allowed to eat.
Yeah.
So these particular animals, you would say the cow, the deer, the goat, the lamb. Those are the meats that we can eat. God talks about the chicken. He said anyone that has feet and legs above it that hop on the land that doesn't fly, you're allowed to eat. So what animals can't fly but they hop around? That's the chicken and the turkey. So we eat that. Now he talked about in the sea. He said the fishes of the sea. He said only fishes that have fins and scales, okay, are we required to eat. You have some that have fins but don't have scales, so we don't eat them, like the shark. You know, you have like octopus, don't have neither one. You know, we're not allowed to eat that. You have it's a lot of different fishes. If they don't have the fins and scales, we're not allowed to eat. Okay, those are the three main sources of food that we don't eat oysters, we don't eat crabs. You know, crabs are scavengers of the sea. They clean up the sea.
What attire do you wear on a daily basis? Like,
You know, I blend in. I blend in. By me being a rabbi and so forth, we wear our rabbinical attire only if we're having rabbinical meetings and so forth like that. We wear rabbinical attire. This is a rabbinical attire. We wear black and white, black crown, white shirt, and a tie to match. Okay, that's the rabbinical attire. But when it comes to prayer service in our temple, we wear robes. We wear robes and mitres. Okay, and if you look on the...
What's a mitre?
A mitre is similar to a crown, but it has a point at the top. You ever see the Pope with that thing on? Those are what they call mitres. It's shaped like a cone. So those are what we call mitres. Okay. Yeah, that's the tie that we wear. But other than that, I wear sneakers. I'm comfortable out there when I work because I have a business out there where I'm a vendor, and I blend in. I wear the regular clothes.
Oh, okay.
You know. Yes, we have quite a few different holidays. Okay, it starts off in the spring. Springtime, what we call Passover. Passover is the first holiday that comes in the new year. Because the new year starts in the spring. Okay, so we call it matzot. Matzot meaning that we only eat bread that has no leaven in it for 7 days, because that's a biblical law. When God brought us out of Egypt, He said, I want you to remember this day. He said, 7 days. You left Egypt in haste, so you didn't have time to put that leaven in your bread. So from this point on, you remember this day. Remember the Passover day. For 7 days, you shall not eat bread that has leaven in it. Okay, so that's the Passover. That's the time where we eat unleavened bread. So the unleavened bread that they make today, maybe y'all might see, she knows, is the matzot. They call it matzahs. Okay, it doesn't have any leaven in it. It just has maybe a little bit of honey and some eggs in it, and maybe a little, just some water, something like that. Okay, it doesn't have no butter in it. It doesn't have no yeast in it. You know, no leavening products in it. You see, they come out flat. They real flat. They like flat crackers. Okay, but some other traditional people, they make their own bread. We go buy the store-bought stuff. You know, we buy it off the shelf. And this is only once a year they make these matzahs. They come from the east. They come from Jerusalem. They come from Israel. If you notice some of it, if y'all ever went into the Pathmark, you see they got a section cut off just for Passover goods. Okay, so that's what we do for that particular holiday. Okay, the next holiday what we call Shavuot. Shavuot is when Shavuot. These is 50 days after the Passover season that we celebrate. That's what we call where we start raising our food, our crops and so forth. Because, okay, that's Shavuot, where we were told to make 2 cakes, and that represents the Torah, that represents Moses when he came down from the mountain with the 2 tablets. So on this particular day, Shavuot, we make two wave loaves. In Torah, it tells you to bring 2 wave loaves. 2 wave loaves as an offering and give it to the Kohanim, give it to the priests as your offering during Shavuot. Okay, that's the second one. The next one would be Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the head of the year, they said, but actually we say it's the new year for the spirit. That's what Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah means the head of the year in Hebrew. Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year. That's what that means. But we call it a new year for the spirit. So during that time of Rosh Hashanah, this is the time where God comes down, right? And the next holiday is Yom Kippurim, Day of Atonement. Between them 2 holidays of 10 days of Day of Atonement and Rosh Hashanah, we must make, like we would say, introspection and retrospection. You look back in your past life, find out what sins you might have committed, because this is the time of Judgment Day where God comes and judges us as a people. So that's Rosh Hashanah. That's the head of the year where we prepare ourselves for Yom Kippur to meet God. So he gives us 10 days to make introspection and retrospection of ourselves. Now, on the 10th day, which is Yom Kippur, we afflict our soul. What we mean by afflicting our soul, we mean to fast. We fast on that day. We do prayers. We do prayers of sin, saying that if I committed this sin, please forgive me. And we just pray to the Most High God, asking for forgiveness on this particular day. We do it collectively, but actually it's an individual concept. You see, each person is responsible for his own sin. According to the Messianic and Christians and so forth, they say Jesus Christ saved us from our sins, but God said, no, each man is responsible for his own sin. So this is what we do. That's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. And then about 5 days later, we call it the Feast of Tabernacles. That's what we call the Feast of Ingathering. We'll be bringing all our crops. And God told us to build a boot, a sukkah boot. We call it Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacles. He said, during your times when I brought you out of Israel, you had to live in boots. You had to dwell in boots in the wilderness. You see, so we didn't have no place to live out there in the land when God had brought us out of Egypt. So he was taking us to the promised land. So during that time in the promised land, we created boots. We made boots of trees, and we lived in it. You see, so that's Shavuot, that's Sukkot, where he told us that we shall live in the boots for 7 days, because this is what we did when we came out of Egypt as a slave people. Okay, the next one after that would be the last one, which would be Hanukkah. Hanukkah is what means dedication. That's what Hanukkah is. So during that time, it goes back to the Maccabees about Hanukkah. It's a feast of dedication about the lights and so forth, because on this particular day, the Syrian army came and captured the Maccabees, and they had made war against the Maccabees back then, and they took over the temple, and they defiled the temple with pigs and all kind of stuff. So we took back that particular temple, and during that particular time we cleaned it up, but we only had 1 flask of oil. Okay, 1 flask of oil, and that 1 flask of oil was only supposed to last for 1 day, and a miracle took place down there at that particular time. That 1 flask of oil lasted for 8 days. So we called it a miracle. This is why from that point on we celebrate Hanukkah for 8 days, because of the miracle that took place by that lamp staying, that oil lasted for 8 days. So ever since then, when the Maccabees took back the temple, and they dedicated that particular day as Hanukkah, a day of dedication. So we dedicate ourselves. We do a lot of things on Hanukkah. She knows we buy gifts and so forth. You're looking forward to it, right? Okay. Name, you got Passover, you got Shavuot, you got Rosh Hashanah, you got Yom Kippur, you got Feast of Tabernacles, which is Sukkah, and you got Hanukkah. Okay, those are the main holidays which we observe. When God created the heavens and the earth, in Genesis, he tells you, he said, He created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. And on the seventh day, he rested.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So by him telling that, he says, according Yom Shabbat the Kadshu, he said, I want you to remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. The seventh day is a day of rest and glorification of the Most High God. And that falls on Saturday. Yes, Hebrew. The Hebrew language is what we speak. Okay, we know that the Hebrew consists of the alphabet consists of 22 letters. Okay, and then you got the vowels and so forth. But the Hebrew alphabet actually consists of 22 letters. So this is our language. I went to rabbinical school. Okay, going to rabbinical school, you have to do a lot of studying of all ethnic backgrounds. So you know, I really, a willing heart is the main thing of becoming a rabbi. You see, but you do have to study. You have to study the Mishnah Torah. You have to study Talmud, different books. You have to study the prayer books, the Darim, the Zuki Zimra. There's so many different books that you have to read. So it's like when Rabbi Matthew started the rabbinical course back in over 50 years ago. He started a rabbinical academy. It was the same 7-year course. 7 years. You had to study for 7 years. Not only to study, but you had to participate in the prayer services, learning the Hebrew, getting up there doing lectures of that type. But then when I went to the rabbinical class, they cut it down to 4 years. You see, but the 4 years was a little bit. Ooh, y'all should know. Y'all going to college. Y'all know how it is. You got to cram here, cram there because of the 4 years. Because they're taking 7 years and cramming it into 4 years.
Wow.
You see, so it's a lot more to do. A little bit more concentrated. See, that there, I can explain it to you, but it's a physical thing. It's not a thing where I could say, this is how you do this is how you do that. But what we do during the prayer service, we have what we call prayer shows. We use a prayer shawl. We cover ourselves. The men do. The women, when they come to the temple, they make sure that you do what? Cover your head. Some of us some of the women wear Eastern garments and so forth. But the prayer, we use these books, okay, which are called Shabbat prayers. If you read here, it says Shabbat prayers. All of our prayers is consistent there, but the consistency of these prayers actually comes from the Torah, from Psalms, which is written by David. Okay, most of the Psalms, Pezukei Zimre, are Psalms that were written by David. And we put these same Psalms together and we pray. We read them out loud and we're doing our little prayer. And then when it comes time after we do these particular prayers, we do a chain prayer. Chain prayer meaning that we come from the heart. We put the book on the side. And whatever you feel, this is what you say. See, normally when we pray into the Most High God, we always call upon Him as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and God of Israel. You see, that's petitioning our God as a way that we communicate with God when we do our prayer. You got some religions like the Muslim religion. They pray 5 times, 7 times a day, or 5 times a day. We say 3 times is good for us, but you can pray as much as you want. You see, we say on your lying down, that's before you go to sleep, you pray to make sure that God watches over your spirit. Okay? And then when you rise up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, we say Modiani, Lefaneka, we say giving thanks to the Most High God for restoring our soul. So then we start our prayer. We give Him thanks for restoring the soul. So then when we walk up by the way, meaning that when we do in our everyday life, you're going to work and so forth, you want to ward off that evil temptation, because there's a lot of things, people get you upset. So this is why we say the prayer before we go to sleep, when we wake up and when we're walking. Because some people get you bent out of shape. So you say, Lord, please have mercy. Don't let me get bent out of shape because of this and that. So you pray while you're walking and so forth. So 3 times a day we recommend that you pray. But you can pray as much as you want. We have what we call a day of mourning. Okay, we do have a day of mourning. And we believe once a person passes away, um, we would say the Shema, releasing his spirit, so sending the spirit off to the Most High God. We recite the Shema, and there's other prayers that we use. We call it the El Rahman. The El Rahman is a prayer of compassion. We asking God to please forgive this person, have mercy on that person before he comes to the other side. You see, so that's another method that we use when we're doing the prayer service. And when we mourn for a whole year. We mourn for our loved ones for one whole year. And we have what we call a mourner's Kaddish that we do every Shabbat. And every week, if someone in the family has a misfortune of losing a loved one, we say the mourner's Kaddish. So the mourner's Kaddish is to remember the loved ones and their departure, and relieve that particular mourner of their grief and helping them, to get over it. Well, we living in hell right now. We're here in this earth they would call. Okay, we got to realize that we're just passing through here. Okay, we believe that there's another world. Okay, after death. So we believe that God gave us the nishma, which is the soul, which is the breath of life. And at the end, when it comes time for your demise or when you're going back to God, God takes back what he gave you. And he created you from the heaven, from the earth. And the body goes back to the earth, and God takes back the spirit. And the spirit goes back to the Most High God. Yeah, we go to them. Them brothers know what they're doing. We wrap ourselves up. We wrap ourselves up with cloth and so forth, and we cleanse the body. And
Who cleanse the body? The mortician or?
The morticians, yes.
Oh.
We do it too. I did it before.
Oh.
I had a hand in it because I'm a Levite, and that's what Levites do. Next day. We don't believe in long things because the Most High God wants you to bury your dead the night after. The only time we don't bury, if the person died on a Sabbath, we don't bury nobody on the Shabbat. We don't bury.
Okay.
We don't do any type of thing on the Shabbat. That's a rest day for us, so we don't do any form of work because that would be a form of work if you're cleaning the body and doing what you have to do with that body. So we'll wait till Sunday. But most of our funerals, if a person died like on Friday, we'll have it on Sunday. So we do it right away. If you die on Monday, we'll try to have the funeral service done on Tuesday, no later than Wednesday. Okay, just one day of separation after that. Okay, they played a complete role in life itself. Without the matriarchs, without the women, we can't be fruitful and multiply. So the same thing in the temple itself, when it comes to position and so forth. You see, the women handle everything in there, raising of the children. They handle a lot of things in there. They can become the treasurer if they need to. They on our committees. But you play an important role in life itself. You see, that's when God said in Genesis, he said a man doesn't have a helpmate. What did he mean by that? Helpmate meaning that he doesn't have a woman. He doesn't have someone of a companion, someone to love. You see, so he took man, laid him down, and took the she out of him, and made it he, she, and made two. You come from the rib of man, and this is why we call you come from the womb of man, which is why we call you womb man, because you came from the womb of man. So that makes you a womb man. So we equal. You're my partner. Because when a man leaves his mother's house, in order to get that love back, in order for him to be fruitful and multiply, he has to have that woman. He has to have that woman to be fruitful. So that's the role that y'all play. Y'all are very important to us. We need you by your side. We can't do it without you.
Well, when you say be fruitful and multiply, so do you believe in contraceptives?
Well, you can't multiply to use contraceptives.
Or do you consider it like a sin?
I mean,
Consider what a sin?
I know,
Like
but
abortion?
No, of course not. Well, we don't believe in abortion. Abortion, how could you multiply if you're killing off the children? Okay, during our time, when we get married, we make up a ketubah. Ketubah is it's a glass, a little small glass that we break. Okay, you get a ring, put a ring on your finger. Okay, we know that the ring has no beginning, has no end. So this is where they want the marriage to be just like the ring. You know, where it's just a circle, just goes round and round until, Lord, Most High God comes in between them. You know, God forbid. We truly believe that y'all are truly very important in our lives, and it's truly important to have a wife in order for us
One
to.
wife? Or
One wife.
Oh, okay.
One wife in this time and age, yeah.
Oh.
One wife is fine. You know. But you got the traditional. Remember I told you about the 4 classifications?
Mm-hmm.
They believe in having more than one wife.
Which one?
Traditional Israelites.
The traditional?
Yes, traditional.
Oh.
And Talmudic, we believe in one wife. You know. Not to say that the Torah says that you can have more than one wife if you could afford it. Okay? It's in there. I'm not making this up.
Oh, okay.
It's in there. It says if a man takes on a second wife, he shall treat the second wife like he does the first.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Equal. If you buy her a car, buy the other one a car. If she has her own home, she has to have her own home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it was. In order for us to get respect from any other nationality or any people, we have to give respect. Those are the statutes that the Most High God taught us. To be friendly, to love. In Leviticus 19:18 chapter says, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Treat them like you wanted to be treated. You see, that's part of our culture. You see, you're no better than I am, I'm no better than you. We're on equal terms, equal basis. We're not biased. You know, no matter what the complexion of your skin is. You know, because when you turn the lights out and they become dark in there, you can't tell the complexion of skin. Am I right? So we're equal. You know, so race has nothing to do with this here at all. Race doesn't play a part in our culture because we consider ourselves a garden of people. You know, garden of colors. If you look around, you see some dark, off-white, white, almost white. You know, you know, this is what it is. Headquarters used to be Commandment Keepers. It's no longer there.
Used to be where?
Commandment Keepers on 123rd Street in Manhattan.
Oh.
That was headquarters. That was the first temple that was originated by Chief Rabbi W.A. Matthew. Shalom Alayhi, may his spirit rest in peace. That was what we used to call headquarters. Okay, right now, there's several different synagogues, different temples, you know. But our rabbinical school, it's in St. Albans, Queens. That's the New York Israelite Board of Rabbis, located at 189-31 Linden Boulevard, St. Albans, New York. Okay, that's where headquarters is at right now for the rabbinical school. But right now, we don't really have a headquarters anymore. So everybody has their own particular temple, okay, a temple place of worship. Okay, we community-based people. We try to communicate with anybody in our community. You see, this is what it's about, getting along with one another. You see, and the only way to get along with other people is to be diverse. You know, we respect them, respect their way of life, what they do for a living, whatever it is, what their religion is. You know, we can't be biased in this way of life. You see, so sometimes we go to Jewish communities, we go to their temples, we worship with them. They come here, they worship with us. Sometimes we'll go to Messianic, those that believe in Jesus Christ. We may go to their temple, you know, their house of worship, and see what they're about. And we invite them to ours, you see. So it's, you know, it's multicultural when it comes to that. You know, we try to blend in with everyone.
Okay,
Yeah, we do
things
that.
like that.
Yeah, all the time, You know, we don't look for funds, but we ask the congregation to provide. We call what we call a tzedakah box. Tzedakah box is where every week everybody makes an offering into that tzedakah box, and anybody that's in need. You know, suppose you have a mishap in your family, you could come to our place of worship and ask for help, and we'll go to that tzedakah box, which is set aside just for that. Not just inner, outer as well. People that's not part of our organization can come and we'll help them out the best we can. And we do community outreach. We do have, we send clothes to Africa. We did have a pantry service where people used to come to our temple and we used to give out food. Certain days of the year we have cookouts outside our temple, and we provide, like I did it this year too, over where I work at. I had a cookout and invited the whole community to come and eat. You know, I provided the money, the foods, and everything. And we do that in our temples just as well. Yes, well, normally when you see a Hebrew Israelite, you'll notice that he wears what we call it the Magen David, which is Magen David means shield of Abraham. Shield. They got a Magen Abraham too. Magen David is the shield of David. It's 6 point. Some people call it star. But when David went out to the battle, he had a shield, 6 points like this is here. This is our emblem, our shield. You know, that represents Israel. And if you see somebody with this on, you know that they're Israelite. What we do on Friday night, okay, we light candles, we light incense, and we do special Shabbat prayers. We welcome the Shabbat to come in, okay? Once we do our prayer service, we petition the Most High God at that particular time, letting them know that we love Him, we respect Him, we glorify Him, we praise Him for this Shabbat day of worship. Okay, so this particular place of worship is right here, in your heart. That's where it starts. It starts in your heart. You see, because God wants those that have a willing heart. So that's where the Shabbat prayer starts, in your heart. You see? And then from that point on, we go to the prayer service. But we always talk about the heart. The heart represents the 4 ventricles of the 4 rivers when God made man in the Garden of Eden. The prayer service or prayer worship starts in the heart and in your home. That's where you start your prayer service at. In your home, in your dwelling, where you reside. You find yourself a place in your place where you live at, and you build your altar there. You build your altar, set your books there, your prayer books, your Bible. You light your candles and your special incense that you light up to God. And once you light the candles, first thing I do is light the incense. Then I light the candles. And then I do my prayer service. I welcome the Shabbat to come in. And on the next day, I go to the temple. And we open up with a prayer. You know, we welcome God. We give God His acknowledgement. Doesn't. See, because what they do, when you say the Orthodox Jew, they have their own specific pattern in the way of prayer, and we do. You know, they have Ashkenazim, what they call Ashkenazim. We have the Sephardic ritual. Sephardic meaning the Eastern. Ashkenazic is European. That's where the Ashkenazi come from. You know, Ashkenazic Jews that separated themselves and went over there to Europe. They were there you got Russian Jews, Czechoslovakian Jews, you got German Jews, and so forth. But we're from the East. We don't consider our way of life as a religion, because the way of life is the Torah itself. The Torah is a way of life of how we live, how we walk, how we talk, how we speak to one another. That's the way of life. It's not religion. Religion is something that's man-made. Man makes religion. See, to suit themselves. He accepts certain laws and obeys certain laws to suit themselves. But in our way of life, we have to cater to every particular law that's in there. They pick the big 10. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, honor thy father and thy mother, thou shalt not put any of the gods before me. They pick the big 10, but it's much more than 10. They just pick them 10, the other religions. Because if you notice, when you go to any church, they only talk about the 10 commandments. They don't talk about the 613 commandments. There's 365 negatives and 248 positives. When you add them all together, it's 613 commandments of the Most High God. But the other religions only accepted 10.